I'm in the TechCrunch studio today with Jonathan Wegener, who's CEO of Timehop. Jonathan, welcome to the studio.
Thank you for having me.
So you just flew in today for a day of meetings in San Francisco from New York. And Timehop is a great product. I've been using it for a really long time. Love the product. Parts of my family love the product. I'd really love to know, and for you to share with everyone, how did you guys come up with the idea for Timehop, even before you built it?
Timehop started at a hackathon in February 2011, and we were inspired by seeing something called TweetShift. TweetShift was a service built by a guy in London that feeds your tweets back into your tweet stream with a delay. And we thought it would be interesting to do something similar with our Foursquare data, and so we built a Foursquare app called Foursquare in 7 years ago, and that was the beginning of Timehop. And that was...
So what was it about the time shift of TweetShift, that this sort of somebody inserting old content that you created into your stream real time, so that you would sort of have a trigger or a memory of that?
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting to look back, but we felt like it was the wrong form. Like there was something interesting about it, in that it displayed historical data. But it was weird to be reading your Twitter stream and see the timestamps go 3 minutes ago, 4 minutes ago, and then suddenly have to kind of shift mentally to be like, wow, that was a year ago, and then it doesn't quite fit right. And tweets themselves are not quite as interesting as we felt once we built it as the Foursquare data. So as soon as we did this one-day hackathon, and my co-founder Benny pulled the Foursquare check-ins from this day last year, he showed me a screen with the 2 check-ins, and it was amazing how powerful it was to just see 2 check-ins from that day and to know that
what
that
do you
was a year
think
ago.
made that content resurface? You know, this resurfacing of that content so powerful.
I think it's about context. I think it's about, people like looking back. I love looking back. We take photos to look back. You have to give people a way to do it, an excuse to do it, and the context to do it. And the context of this day a year ago and this day in history now is kind of our context. And it makes that particular day have a special reason to look at it versus any other day.
Okay, so you and Benny got together after this hackathon, and then how did you guys sort of start to decide and say, hey, we have something here for a product?
It took a lot longer than it should have, to be honest. We built it at the end of February, and it wasn't until June or July
of what year?
Of 2011, of last year, that we decided to actually run with it and build it. And it kind of happened very organically. Like, the numbers kept going up, people kept signing up. It got to a point where the product started as a daily email, and we were sending people this Foursquare in 7 years ago, this simple email of their Foursquare check-ins from a year ago. We were sending that to users every single day, and it got to a point that we started to have to pay SendGrid money, and it was going to cost us personal money, and we had no funding at this point. When we started it, we were part of Techstars New York, the first class in New York, working on a completely different project. So this was our side project.
This is you and Benny at Techstars?
Yes, me and Benny at Techstars, and then we took a day off to do this side project that started to cost us money and started to have organic traction and people begging us to build things.
Was the SendGrid Bill kind of a signal to you that maybe something more was there?
The SendGrid Bill was a bit of a forcing function. It was either we have to start paying for this, figure out how to monetize it, or figure out something to do with it. And we had been talking about it for a long time, about like people really like this product, and almost every week a different person was writing a blog post about Foursquare in 7 years ago, and shooting us personal emails about how powerful it was. And it became hard to ignore. It kind of got to a point where there was so much noise about the product. And it kind of reached a head when our friend Vin, who runs Yipit, Vin Vicanti, sat us down at breakfast one day, and he said, guys, there's 2 emails every day that I love getting. One is the Yipit daily email, and one is the Foursquare in 7 years ago daily email. And to be honest, I like your email better. And we thanked him, and he said basically, like, you guys are really onto something. I'm addicted to your email. Your numbers show that people are addicted to reading about their past and opening this email. Figure out what the bigger thing is. And a few months later, we met Bryce Roberts from OATV, O'Reilly Alpha Tech, who led our seed round, and he kind of said the same thing. He was like, you have something big here. You're onto something big. Keep working on it. Figure out what's big.
Right.
And it was a few months after that, Benny and I just talked a lot about like what's working about this product, what are people enjoying, and how can we give them more of it, and how can we grow it, and how can we get it there. And then we
let's focus on one piece of that. So you guys have grown quite organically to this point, had a nice lift, and you kind of did it on the back of email, right? Which is not what people are thinking. Well, some people are thinking about that a lot, but you were kind of building up an audience just through an old channel, right? Or seemingly ignored channel. So how did you guys decide to do that, or did you stumble upon it? And how do you think that's helped you grow?
The email was a game day decision. We had one day, we had a one day hackathon to build this product. And the original intention was to feed your Foursquare check-ins to a secondary Foursquare account that would be called like the Ghost account. Your Ghost Jonathan would check in around the city, inspired by like the Mario Kart Ghost. And we simplified it very quickly to a daily email because we realized it would be way too hard to get people to create 2 accounts and to do all of these connections. And from there, it was interesting. People were skeptical at first. Like, I don't really know if I want to get an email every day. That seems very heavy-handed. That seems intense. And then once they started getting it, people were reading every single email. And email is a naturally social product. You can forward it. The forward button is one click away. And so we started seeing all of our metrics going up because people were forwarding these emails to each other. And so it became a very easy to pass on thing. And it also became part of people's kind of daily routine. We were sending the emails at 7 or 8 in the morning. People said that they would wake up and first thing they would do is read this email, sometimes in bed with their significant other, and say, honey, look what we did last year, like, here, and relive their day. And so they...
Yeah, that was definitely my experience too, and using the application. It's just I noticed that I was able to share it with people who aren't glued to their phones like I am, or who are just, normal tech phone users, or it seemed like things that they wanted to have that content.
Yeah. And I think email is the lowest common denominator, right? You don't need any devices, you just need a computer. And that's a pretty low barrier, so almost everyone could enjoy the product.
So now walk us through more recently, since you just launched iPhone application, right? How was it sort of taking your existing audience and launching this app, moving some of them over to the app, and also getting new users? How did you guys make the decision? I mean, I guess to go iOS seems kind of obvious, but then how do you take that traffic and attention and move it over to a new platform?
The decision's obvious in retrospect, as many things are. For a long time, we made the decision to not build a mobile app because we said we're mobile friendly. The email rendered beautifully on the iPhone. And we said to create that same exact experience in a native iOS app is going to be weeks of work, and we have to deal with, Apple's approval process and all of these kind of additional constraints. And it started to make a lot more sense when we started building out richer features on the website and kind of expecting people to move from their daily email to a rich website that we were calling Timehop Social. It was kind of the next generation of Timehop. And what we're trying to build Timehop into is the ultimate place online to reconnect around the past. A kind of social network, if you will, of people talking about and connecting around the past.
Now, I'm asking this question because I'm sure you get it 100 times a day, which is, will someone say, well, shouldn't just Facebook do that, right? And it sounds cliche when people say that, right? And in a lot of cases, it doesn't really matter. But this is really around, Facebook's core product offering, which is, around photo sharing, right? Why doesn't Facebook do it?
I think Facebook is a website about the present and about real time. It's about what are people doing right now, where are they? And our product is in many ways complementary and not really, I don't really see it as competitive to Facebook Timeline.
No, I don't mean competitive. I mean like why couldn't they institute this feature in this context around saying, oh, Jonathan, you did this a year ago. Or you met this person a year ago, because they have a lot of that data as well.
Yep. They could. I don't think they would have the depth of the product that we're building and also kind of have the vision for what it means to build a site about the past in the same way that.
So can you talk a little bit about that? What is your and Benny's vision for building a site about the past and connecting people around it?
Sure. We think it should be social. It should be a place where it's okay to talk about the past. And that alone is hard, right? Because no one does that right now. Everything's real time, and there's kind of a user expectation the freshest content is at the top of the feed. And so to make a website about anniversaries, which is effectively what Timehop is, means we have to kind of rewrite the rules. So we are keeping to the constraint of this day in history. This particular calendar day is the interesting part. There's just kind of a lot of subtleties to it. Like, people consider their past private. So you can't just make the website where you're looking at everyone's past data.
Right.
And when we prototype a lot, and one of the things we prototyped was that, like, let me see your day from a year ago and 2 years ago.
Right.
And without the context, it turns out to not be interesting.
So in terms of context, like more product question, you're now surfacing it as an anniversary, right, against time. You did this X number of years ago or whatever. Are you thinking about other vectors like location or who you're around or maybe someone you've met or you've lost touch with, or any other vector like that?
Yeah, those are kind of the next generations of the product.
Okay.
Around place and around person. We need to master this one first, which is around time.
So can you walk us through a little bit sort of the challenges and opportunities you and Benny faced when you're now moving over to iPhone and that mobile application? I mean, because you had to reinvent or rethink how you're going to present your product, right, to an existing audience. Like, how was it building for mobile?
It's tough. To do the same product as a simple scrolling beautiful email full of rich photos and text and tweets in a native iOS app is weeks of work. And you saw that with Facebook's rebuild when they changed from HTML5 to all native components to make the performance better. That was for that exact reason. And so to even get up to the par of a simple email is weeks of work.
Sure.
And then we have challenges around engagement. So whereas a push email lands in whereas if we're sending you a daily email, it lands in your inbox, you can't miss it. Your email inbox is your like central, you go through everything. The equivalent in app world is a push notification. Yeah. And if you wake up to have 10 push notifications, it's really easy to miss the one saying, hey, Timehop's ready, like open us.
Do you find that the open rates are better on email versus iOS notifications?
They're actually really comparable.
Wow.
We see between 40 and 50% open rate on email, and our engagement numbers so far on mobile are astounding. We're seeing between 40 and 50% of our user base open the app every single day, on any given day.
Right.
40 to 50% are opening the app. So.
And once they're in and you're showing them old content and old photos, it's easier to kind of hook them in.
It's easier to hook them in, and it's also easier to ask them to do things. And that's a lot of the reason we moved from email to iPhone. Email, to do anything requires a click, which means you pop into Safari and you go to a website. And we're losing users over that chasm. Whereas in mobile, you're meeting them halfway. And over half of our emails were already being opened by iPhones. So to build mobile seemed very smart or very logical in the end. And it's much easier to get users to share. So we're seeing 20x the amount of sharing per user on mobile than we were from the email. And we're seeing just a lot more engagement with the content.
That's great to hear. And also, you're kind of what Instagram pioneered as creating kind of static web pages, right? You've been doing that also for a while, right? Where you can get an email or from the phone, and sorry, not from the phone, but you can get an email and go to a static page, or someone shares to you a page and you're viewing it on your browser, right? Walk us through that sort of product decision.
The permalink page for us is a really important page. It's the way you share a single item, an old tweet, an old photo, an old Foursquare check-in. And oftentimes those shares are, public. They're shared to Twitter, they're shared to Facebook, they're emailed out, they're SMS. Those are our kind of four key ways. And so we just have a really simple landing page. And the majority of our traffic on the web is not to timehop.com, it's to timehop.com / some permalink where it's people's content driving the traffic.
Right. And then how do you guys think about, your built iOS, there's a lot of room to grow in the product. How do you think about Android, with limited resources, small startup?
We would love to build Android today. We're not going to.
Why?
We need to nail the product first on one platform. When we have Instagram level growth and it's going up at a crazy rate, and we know we have the perfect product for the market and the perfect product market fit, then it makes sense to move into Android. But right now, I think we're still really early on in the product we're trying to
So
build.
from a product development standpoint, you're saying that that would actually introduce a lot more complications, right? Because then you have to deal with everything in terms of Android fragmentation before you're ready on one platform.
Right. We're still rapidly experimenting with growth, with engagement, with a lot of things. And before we have the formula down, simply going to Android in the hopes that our user base kind of doubles doesn't seem like the right strategy, because what we're trying to do is master the iOS so that our user base doesn't double, it doubles every day, like up,
Yeah.
It's crazy
How do you find
growth.
how do you find A/B testing on iOS?
We haven't done much of it.
No?
I haven't figured out how to
So
how to do it well.
Yeah, I mean it's a difficult concept. How do you guys think about? Then do you just kind of go on intuition about building products and features and stripping away things?
Yeah, we generally prioritize around our goals, and our goals right now are to figure out growth. We have really good engagement numbers. We need to master growth, and so we made a list of every feature in the world, including some of the location features and the different axes, and we went down that list and we said, will this move the needle around growth, and will this get us to our goals? And we crossed off almost everything of that list and said, all right, let's hold off on all of that and let's focus on our goals. And that was a really healthy kind of group discussion that brought us back to the core product and how can we make this grow? How can we give people more content to share? How can we give people a deeper experience? How can we give people more social content to pass around? So our prioritization is around our goals, and A/B testing absolutely fits into that. It fits into kind of the bottom of the funnel. If we can get people share, I know for a fact that our permalink pages that, as I said, receive a ton of traffic, they're not optimized and they could get better. But we can do that at any point. That's kind of the easy low-hanging fruit. The hard part is figuring out how this becomes social. How is history and archive and personal content about the past? How does that become social, and how do we encourage users to share, and how do we make this an app about sharing and not a hold it personally private, not a personal private diary. We really want Timehop to be a social service.
Well, Jonathan, congrats on all the success in launching for iPhone.
Thank you.